Good morning. I just had a sudden realization that, yes, I am a stalker. I am a stalker of truth. I am a stalker of knowledge. I am a stalker of purpose. I've stalked these things throughout my entire life. And just like Carlos Castaneda talked about stalking, and the art of stalking, you do kind of have to come around not directly, which I forget quite a bit. And you could hate on Carlos Castaneda all you want. I don't know where his works came from, but there's something. You can read ChatGPT and gain something from it too. I mean, we're always going through the filters of our minds and seeing reflections, and it's just the way that things work, and that's just so. Whether I see patterns and things that other people can't see, and whether or not that counts is totally subjective. Totally subjective. And there is no authority to it. So in this particular situation, when I discovered connections of myself to someone else, my first reaction was to, okay, well, let's explore this, because that's what I naturally do. I don't think that there is a reason I had not to, except for the large amount of fear, concern. I mean, going into this, that was before I really had to. That was before I had to go through that and accept inside myself, I'm okay with these actions producing this result. This result's inevitable anyways, so we're told. And so logically, yeah, so everything I did logically, although there's some emotion involved for sure. Large amounts of emotion. And that's the really interesting thing I've discovered about emotion, is that it can undulate, and so wild how sadness can turn to anger, and there is possibly science to all this stuff, right? And I accept that. And I accept that there are people who have been studying it for a lot longer than I've been alive, and have recorded and made systems out of it. And I'm a fool for not wanting to join in on that. I get that. And it's not for lack of wanting, it's lack of being able to bend the knee. So, and I can't explain it. I cannot explain it. It is definitely something inside myself. But for other reasons, for people, for example, I will do things. It's not that I lack humility. I don't lack humility. I mean, this whole thing has humbled me enormously. Like, I see when somebody on the street, and I feel for them because I understand to some degree. I understand looking at an alcoholic. I understand all these different things, and I have empathy and compassion, at least when I'm not angry. And I don't see that I lack humility. It's almost like a rule set. And some of my greatest disgust of myself has been when I violated that. That's my true, like, compass, So, I'm the exception to everything. And I expect to be the exception. So, that was my whole caveat, Like, it's not that I don't want in. It's, I don't want strings, even though I have them all over me, right? I'm full of conundrums. But yeah, I am a stalker of all kinds of things. And I will go quite the length, but not the length that I've been accused of. And, I'm still limiting myself. It's true. I'm still holding back. From the limits I could totally ignore. So to accuse me of that has really massively impacted my self-esteem. I just, how do I look at women if this is how somebody else who I did at some point feel intense emotions for, which I don't think was from myself. I really think this thing was all set up, and I see evidence of that. But only another occultist could understand it. And if all the other occultists are, unwilling to talk about it, or the other thing, of course, is so many are just Eastern, and don't have that Western flair of understanding. Yeah, I've stalked truth. I have not gone past the point of breaking the laws of the land, so-called. And I wouldn't. Not while this is still going. So-called victimless, so-called crimes, to me, those are all breakable, like, if it's something to do to yourself, whatever, between two consensual people, etc. Those are, but when it comes to somebody who is being affected or could be affected, it's not victimless, right? However, we have to understand that at the basis, okay, we have two things. We have freedom of speech and freedom of religion, which also ties into this. And, well, that free speech thing is important. Because, when you're a free speech absolutist, then maybe you have to accept that even though it's not comfortable, like the presence of somebody else who you didn't act appropriately towards might be uncomfortable for you to see them. Perhaps you don't want to talk to them. Perhaps you just feel uncomfortable. But that's a you problem. You know that when it comes to freedom of speech. That very basis that just because you're uncomfortable with somebody doesn't mean you have a right to tell them to leave, doesn't mean you have a right to tell them to shut up, doesn't mean any of those things, which you have done. You have censored me without explanation. Without explanation. So that right there was like a major, like, what the fuck, right? Like, that just panic mode. I mean, what is that? That's, I'm not going to be integrous to the things I say because it's more convenient just to act like a total what? What would you call that? I could think of some choice words, but I'm not going to say them. And so all through this process of, okay, we need to discuss this stuff because it's actually, from my perspective, of the highest importance. And you pretending that I'm a creep, which I'm not, because we had things to discuss. I mean, I'm not saying that because I had things to discuss, I'm not a creep. That doesn't, I mean, you're assuming my insistence is creepy is wrong. It's not. That's your perception. And you assuming that my assistance at having a one-on-one discussion, which for me is always important because I need to be able to read the field of somebody around me for me to fully trust them, which of course became a total negated point. But I'm a fool, right? I do foolish things, and I do foolish things all the time. So much so that I feel like it will probably at some point cost my life. But foolish things I did not do. I did not go the route of a complete stalker. Nor would I have ever been a threat to you. My intention was purely one of establishing some rapport that wasn't me being creepy, hello, and two, actually discussing these matters, which have played out in the most weird and fucked up way. And I realized that there's no way that any of this stuff could have been totally planned. So, by humans. I don't buy that. Not all of it. Some of it. So if it was all an op and I've been op this whole time, then it is what it is. It's I can understand the purpose. I mean, when it comes to Krishnamurti, let's just talk about Krishnamurti. And my understanding isn't that great. I just never could really get started on his books. I could follow, and understand his lines of reasoning just fine. And I share, I think, a lot of his sentiments. Because I see the same, basic outlooks. But Krishnamurti, it seems for the most part, I don't know that he was ever anything extraordinarily special. I don't have any reason to believe that. As far as them finding him on the beach stranded, who knows? I don't trust those people, of course. Why would I? Or their stories. And he must have at some point seen something that just really he didn't feel good about in the direction that they were wanting him to go, because they were going to set him up. He didn't necessarily particularly have any of his own gifts, and I don't know that he ever actually really studied the occult. But these occultists would have fixed that, wouldn't they? And that was their plan, I think. And I think he saw that, possibly. They were really on the go to try to push this new Messiah for the new Eon thing. And, and then I think after that, they would have rethought their plan, wouldn't they? Given it more consideration. I don't see what made him special. Like, why were they, or was that a test run? Like, let's see what happens when we put this much responsibility on one person. Is that possible? Like, so I have questions still. I would love to talk to somebody from the Institute that has great knowledge. However, people like to run away from me. So, it's not been fun to be me in this life, and I don't understand it. It never seems fair. Like, but I did not stalk any person. Did not stalk anyone. Neither that nor did I ever have any violent intentions. Talking about violence, war is never the solution. Removing tyranny is not war. War isn't the solution. The solution is for people to actually fucking talk to each other and see how from each other's eyes, from each other's perspectives. Invite them into your home. Let them see, let them understand who you are. Let them see that you're not so different. Understanding those similarities is important. That's how peace is established. When you focus on divisions, the opposite happens. Yeah, so I I understand now that there were a lot of things that came before to set this thing up, and that at this point, I mean, it to me it feels kind of like a failure, like without a better ending. I don't see what's learned from this. You know, I don't see anything. Just another life in a weird, crazy, freaking world. Are they all this weird? That's what I gotta wonder. Like if you wake up every 1,000, 2,000 years, is it all this weird? And is that really what my reward? You know, is ultimate death like a reward? Because how can anything really die? I mean, all energy goes somewhere, right? I don't know. I wish I could see that better. Oh, maybe I do need another ayahuasca ceremony. It's been a long, long time. I do need a way to find some insight into all this. If no one is willing to help me, it seems. Not directly. I wish that would change. I'm the exception. Need an invitation. Direct. And that's really about it.